Welcome to Summer Camp Pride, Pathways for Respect, Innovation, Discipline, and Excellence. Today is Thursday, June 6, 2024. The weather for today will have a high of 92 degrees, partly cloudy, with a 20% chance for rain. Let's hear from our LSC authors.
If I could wish for any three things, I will for a 1 million because I need to pay the house bill.
What would you do if you were a squirrel?
I would get out of my house and go to the lake and get some water.
All right. Is that what you wrote?
Yeah.
All right. Thank you. Oh, I see your journal. What did you write? What would you do if you were a squirrel?
I will climb a tree.
You would climb a tree. Good job. What would you do if you were a squirrel?
If I was a squirrel, I would go to my friends and play with them, and then I would go back to my house, and then I would eat, and then I would go to the pond and drink, and then go back at the middle of the night, and then I would go.
One more time.
If I was a squirrel, I will eat nuts.
Wow, great writing. If you were a squirrel.
I would stand in a tree and eat nuts out of the tree.
You would eat nuts from the tree.
It is now time for our school lunch menu. Pepperoni pizza and seasoned corn will be served, along with a frozen fruit cup. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Now keep standing and tell me, what school is this?
This is a school that has the kids that want to learn and read more books to build a better tomorrow. To build a better tomorrow.
It is now time for the word of the day.
Word of the day, word of the day, it's the word of the day.
What's the word of the day? Triumph. What do you think triumph means? A great success, achievement, or victory. Can you put this word into a sentence? Here are some examples. Molly enjoyed her moment of triumph. The musical was a triumph. The winning football team returned home in triumph. Try and use this word today. You could use it in your writing or during a conversation. Triumph.
All right, scholars, stand up and get ready to move.
Welcome to another Would You Rather. In this game, you have 10 seconds to choose between two choices, and then you have 30 seconds to do the matching exercise. Would you rather go fishing or go hiking? If you chose fishing, do some squats. If you chose hiking, put your elbows to your knees. Would you rather take pictures of views or take pictures of animals? If you chose to take pictures of views, do some high knees. If you chose animals, you're doing butt kicks. Would you rather go canoeing or go swimming? If you chose canoeing, stand on one foot. If you chose swimming, run in slow motion. When you're around the campfire, would you rather sing campfire songs or tell spooky stories? If you chose campfire songs, you're doing tuck jumps. If you chose spooky stories, skip in place.
Hey, did you know that today is National Yo-Yo Day? That's right. Every June 6th, we celebrate the invention and the love for yo-yos. Look at the talent. In honor of National Yo-Yo Day, there will be 20 yo-yos handed out. Hope you are a winner. Ready for a joke? What happened when the sharks raced each other? They tied. What did the horse say when he tripped? Help! I've fallen and I can't giddy up. Now sit back for our campfire story of the day.
This is George. He was a good little monkey and always very curious. This weekend, George and his friend, the man with the yellow hat, had special plans. They were going camping. At the campsite, the man with the yellow hat unpacked their gear while George looked at all the tents. He saw tents for big families and one just the right size for a puppy. There were even tents on wheels. "Would you like to help me put up our tent, George?" the man asked. George was happy to help. It would not be hard to set up a tent, he thought. But it wasn't easy. "George, why don't you fill our bucket with water at the pump?" his friend suggested. "We'll need it by our campfire later, when we roast marshmallows." Marshmallows. George loved marshmallows. He couldn't wait to try them roasted. "Now don't wander off and get into trouble," the man warned. But George did not hear him. He was already gone. At the pump, George worked the handle up and down. Soon his bucket was full. On the way back down the trail, he saw a family packing up. George watched a girl pour her bucket of water on a campfire. The fire sizzled out. George thought that looked like fun. He poured his bucket of water on the next campfire. "Hey!" yelled a camper. "We weren't finished with that yet!" The camper began to chase George, but George didn't mean to cause trouble. Now he only wanted to hide. He ran into the forest as fast as he could, but the camper's footsteps followed close behind. George ran faster and faster. The footsteps came closer and closer until, suddenly, they were passing George. Why, it was not the camper chasing George now. It was a deer! What fun to run with a deer! Forgetting all about the camper and the marshmallows, George ran after the deer. But a little monkey cannot run as fast as a deer in the woods. Before long, George was lost and all alone. He felt tired and stopped to rest. At first he was worried. He was very far from camp, but there were lots of other animals to keep him company. He saw a lizard sunning on a rock and a squirrel chattering in a tree. Then he saw the tail of a black and white kitty peeking out from under a bush. He was curious. Would the kitty like to play? George gently pulled the kitty out. But it was not a kitty. It was a skunk, and it was scared. The skunk lifted its tail and sprayed. Phew! The spray smelled awful. The animals tried to get away. George wanted to get away too, but he could not. The smell was all over him. How would he ever get rid of this awful smell? He wondered. Too bad he could not take a bath in the woods. Then George had an idea. He could wash the smell off in the creek. George jumped into cold water. He splashed and scrubbed, but he was still smelly, and now he was wet too. But what could he do? George thought and thought. If he climbed up a tree to dry off, would the smell blow away? No, even dry and high up in the tree, George did not smell better. Poor George. He wished he hadn't wandered so far from camp. He wished he were roasting marshmallows with his friend. Suddenly, George heard footsteps heading toward him. Someone was coming. It was the forest animals, but they ran right by him. They had seen something scary, and George saw it too. It was a fire. George had gotten into trouble for putting out one fire, but this fire wasn't in the campground. This was an emergency. Quickly, George climbed down the tree and grabbed his bucket. He scooped it full of water in the creek. Then, being careful not to spill, he climbed back up and swung from branch to branch through the trees. When George got close enough to the fire, he reached down and poured the water on the flames. Out went the fire with a big hiss. Just then, George's friend rushed out of the forest with a ranger. "George!" he called. "I was afraid you would be here." "It's a good thing you were here, George," the ranger said. "We saw smoke from the campground, but you put this fire out just in time." George was glad to help, and the man with the yellow hat was glad to see that George was safe, but he had a funny look on his face. "George," he asked, "what is that smell?" Back at the campsite, George's friend helped him get rid of the awful smell. After a strange bath in tomato juice, George smelled fine. Then the man with the yellow hat invited the ranger to cook dinner with them over their own small campfire. "Fires can be nice if you're careful," said the ranger. George agreed, especially for roasting marshmallows.
Happy trails to you until we meet again. Happy trails.